That was Ollie Murs. Now, we've spoken a great deal about hospitality and hospitality really suffering during this chapter. First they're open, then they're closed, then they're open, then they can do takeaway. We are now going to talk to somebody who is an expert in hospitality. She's from DataHawks. Her name is Vic Searl, and she joins us on the afternoon show. Hello, Victoria.
Hello, Jo. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's lovely to have you on because as I was not a particularly good actress. I earned my income in my early years through hospitality, waitressing, working in kitchens. So I really do feel for this industry at this time because, as I said in my introduction, one moment they're open, then they close, then they can do takeaways. Probably you don't know any more than I do, but the latest is it could be May. Is it before restaurants and bars can reopen?
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing exactly the same as you, Jo, and it's really difficult to be able to make any decisions because we never know whether we're coming or going. And the thing is with hospitality, we can't just open the doors and people will come in. There's so much setup involved. So yeah, the sooner we get a proper sort of exit plan out of this situation and we get a bit of clarity on when we can open, the better, I think, for everybody concerned.
So I know you've worked alongside companies like Cafe Rouge, TGI Fridays. They, I don't know whether these big franchises are managing to survive. I live over a family-run restaurant, and they are doing takeaway at a loss because he's paying staff to come in, and he says he doesn't make enough to cover it, but he's doing it so that they will continue to have a presence in the community. Is this the sort of thing you're advising hospitality, restaurants and bars?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's really about sort of like maintaining your presence as much as possible and just keeping that engagement going with your customers. And I think whether you're an independent running a single site or a massive company, we're all still facing the same challenges, which is that people can't go out. So I think it's difficult, whatever your size.
So what are you advising these people now?
So at the moment, I mean, because the last few months have been, so tough for the industry, at the moment I'm sort of like advising just start planning for the future. And that's really difficult because we don't know when the future might happen. But, things are going to be really different. I know that people I'm speaking to at the moment, they're saying that their customers are working in different areas now, for instance. And there's been a huge shift in terms of, how people are working, how people are going out, how people are socialising. And I think what we need to do now is start looking within our businesses, taking the customer data that our customers very kindly share with us and seeing if there's anything we can do to start predicting how things will have changed when things start to open, and then just start to rebuild from there.
So, yes, your company has built data on this, on what is happening in hospitality at the moment. And I think it's really interesting what you've said. We know, I mean, when we started talking about the East End, not the East End, Canary Wharf, all, the city boys who are no longer there, they're working from home, city boys and girls, not using the sandwich bars, the coffee shops, will they ever come back? And then the ones that will come back, so family-run businesses or business chains in residential areas, and families like to have their Sundays out, take the kids out for pizza. They're probably going to have to redesign all their establishments for a start, aren't they? Tables are going to have to probably always remain further apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say how things are going to sort of pan out, but yeah, it's definitely going to be probably the biggest review of the industry we've had in a really long time. But it's not just the operators. We are connected to a massive supply chain. Everything from your local newsagent who provides newspapers to our pubs and our hotels, through to the farmers that supply us with, the millions of tons of fresh produce a year as well. So there's a huge supply chain to think about. And I think everybody's going to be really impacted across the board. So the sooner that we can get some clarity, both on when we'll be allowed to open, and also what it's going to look like in terms of, when the dust has settled, what is the new normal, the sooner we can start making decisions and changing accordingly.
And do you think, I suppose the sale of overhead heaters must have rapidly increased,
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere, aren't they? Just even if then you're not allowed to sit down, they encourage you to buy something at the hatch and you can stand there under heat, and all outdoor spaces. Is there always going to be more takeaway? maybe catering and hospitality as we've seen it will just change forever, do you think?
I think you're right. It's funny because when you go on holiday, the idea of sitting outside or standing outside is so normal. But, we're just not built for that because we have about 2 days of reliable weather a year. So we're just not built to be outdoors. But I think we're going to have to start building that into our plans. I know that lots of operators I've been speaking to, when they're talking about refurbishing sites, they're already talking about the idea of having hatches for the delivery companies to come and collect stuff rather than interrupting the diners in the restaurant. Um, so yeah, I think there's going to be some fundamental changes to the industry, to the design of the restaurants and how they sit, and that's going to really take quite a lot of understanding from our local councils because it's just not how we're set up at the moment, I'm afraid.
And it certainly isn't in London. I mean, if you think of we were beginning to enjoy these massive dining room experiences where, without naming, brands or franchises, you all share long trestle tables, you sit close to each other, in massive dining halls. It's a very London thing, and probably even after, most of the population is vaccinated, whatever, probably considered to be quite controversial to design restaurants in that way.
It's interesting. I think, it's going to take a while for confidence to come back. And, hospitality always has been and remains one of the most regulated industries there is. We're used to handling alcohol, drunk people, food safety and public safety. So we're really geared up as an industry to be able to handle whatever, regulations and restrictions are thrown at us. Having said that, you look at a lot of the sites in London, particularly in areas like Soho, and you can't swing a cat in some of those corridors just going down to the toilets and in the waiting areas because they're really old buildings. So I think there's going to have to be a little bit of compromise on how it's handled and how it's delivered. And I really hope that we can get some serious representation at the highest levels of government who can understand the complexities of our industry and help us bed in the rules and regulations, a new way of doing things that will continue to make our customers feel really safe and sound with us.
And you probably, I don't know if you have data on this, but you probably do. I don't know whether you want to share it, but just from where I live in W1, there are businesses that have gone that will never return. I mean, they've put lovely notices up saying, thank you, everybody, but we can't continue after this. You must have quite a lot of data on that. These restaurants and bars that have just gone, certainly in the London area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really bleak picture. It's been a really bad year all round. And Kate Nichols, MBE, and rightly deservedly of the MBE as well, who was Chief Executive of UK Hospitality, she said in December that half of hospitality businesses that she's representing are saying that they don't have enough cash left to last until March. And that's on top of all the businesses that have already folded. So the hospitality landscape is going to be almost unrecognisable unless we get some timely and meaningful support from the government, because we cannot continue just on hope and passion and hard work alone. But yeah, we're going to see a very different hospitality industry, I think, when we start reopening.
Victoria Searl from DataHawks, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Jo. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Wow, there we are. Food for thought, literally. No pun intended. But yes, if you think of the Soho dining experience, that was the joy of it. These tiny little speakeasies that we would eat in. And then you've got these massive dining halls as well with trestle tables, people sitting side by side. And maybe, it will be a whole different way of dining when we come out of this chat.